Okay, well, energy balance versus energy efficiency indicators. The energy balance already provides for a wide portfolio of energy indicators, but also provides the opportunity to drill down into more detail or specific issues, such as energy efficiency, which can be used for mitigation, sustainability, environment issues. So let's just make sure I got this right. All right. So the overview is that we'll first confirm the objective. We'll talk about monitoring the energy market. We'll talk about the relevance of an energy balance, which is for us a foundation. Why go beyond the energy balance? So it is to address some specific issues. We'll talk about energy indicators, some example, and we'll conclude. So the first objective here is really to provide or highlight the importance of sound energy statistics and energy balances as a foundation to understand what's going on in the energy market. So we need to get this right before we can go further into the details. And talk about some of the benefits that when you start from this balance in terms of going to tackle some of the specific issues you may have. So the example here will be about energy efficiency. So one key point, and it's been coming out in some of the presentations so far, is that statistics is an evolving challenge. It's not static. So for energy, it's the same thing. Sort of when the IEA was established, the focus was on oil, the first oil crisis, so people were looking at this, and we're focusing on production, trade, getting the supply there. And then quickly became obvious that it's not just about oil, it's about all energy forms, everything that can provide the energy services that we're looking for. And environment has become a more and more crucial issues, and we don't know where oil prices are going. It's been up and down, and obviously, that raised some questions. So now, we're dealing with a portfolio or a basket of energy commodities. Some are renewables, some are not. Some are primary sources, some are secondary. So you can use wood to produce charcoal, or you can use oil to produce refined products, coal for electricity, and so on. And more, something that's becoming bigger and bigger is the waste component. There's more and more recovery of waste heat, of waste gases. Phosphorus gas, for example, or coal black gases are recuperated and burned as a fuel, as opposed to being just wasted. So there's ways we can get better at using energy. Now, this is the sort of the conventional way to look at the energy flow. Sort of an endogenous production. So you would have, for example, coal being mined that need to be washed, and then you have commodity that can be traded. It can be transformed to either electricity, for example, which can either, again, be traded, or in the case of coal to produce coke, that can be also stocked and so on. But it's all about, in the end, providing energy services to the consumer. So this is what's driving the whole thing. You want some service, you want to have new appliances, new gizmo at home, it drives the whole chain of command there. So the first thing that we look at, is this the kind of map we want to provide the policy makers? Is this what kind of picture we're going to give them to help them make their decision? I don't think that's what we want. That's why we feel that energy balance is so important, and we want to give them a clear picture. Because the better map that you get will, in turn, provide you a strong foundation for the policy. So in a sense, the lack of essential data can lead the policy-making process toward the wrong policy choices. Yes, there's a cost into data, but they far outweigh the cost of making the wrong policy choices. So the driving here, what drives the whole thing for the IEA is that we need to focus on a sound monitoring and reporting framework of the energy market that provides the foundation for the policy and market analysis, which in turn better inform the policy decision process, which can then help them select the right policy instrument suited for the policies that everyone has, either domestically or internationally. But also to fine-tune. If you already achieved the objective that you have as a policymaker, you want to put your resources somewhere else. Or if you don't, you're underachieving, maybe you have to draw resources from somewhere else and put in there. That helps the policy decision process make the right decision and make the adjustment that's required. So there is a supply and a demand side to the energy equation. That's the demand side we tend to forget, or used to forget about that. So for long, and for many people, the focus was really on monitoring the supply side. And like was said, I've been in the energy field for a long time, not from the 80s, but, well, the 80s, but not 1800, anyway. And back then I was into modeling, and most models were basically focusing on the demand side being just intensities equation, sort of energy per household, that type of thing. It was rather crude in terms of what you can derive from there. But a better understanding of the demand is the essential element to defining solution to key energy-related issues. So energy security, the best energy is the one we don't need to use. Economic and technological development opportunities. So if we make the investment into new technologies that are more energy efficient, that can provide an economy some opportunities of selling those development elsewhere. We're seeing that, for example, even renewables, the same situation. So Germany got very deep into renewable energy for wind and solar. Same for China. China didn't get into developing a wind and a solar panel for the sake of being green. It's for the sake of targeting the market that they can export. So they develop the technology at home, and then they're trying to export all of it elsewhere. And sustainable development was already mentioned, and mitigating the environmental impact. So if we can use less energy, there's less environmental impact. It's all for the benefit of all of us. So in summary, an energy balance provides an energy supply and demand statistical equilibrium. Basically, it's an accounting framework in which everything had to add up. So from supply to demand, everything has to fit together. So it reconciles this position with the consumption data. Now, it also defines energy flows within boundaries of economic sector. So that's another key point, is to get to comparability. If we cannot harmonize the information, it's not as comparable, and we cannot derive as much information. The wealth of information is from the ability to compare the information from one country to another. So it's also a great starting point to a better understanding of demand for the energy-driven services of the different sector of economy, which is what we're getting at right now. So the current situation of the energy balance is that we're looking at many flows. So as you can see, the balance already provides a wealth of detail in terms of the kind of flows that are available. Also in terms of the products, but we're also always looking at improving this. So for example, on the energy side, as mentioned, we're looking now at including in our questionnaires all the recovered gases, recovered heat, ambient heat for things like that, so that we can better capture things that are emerging into the energy market. But that has its sort of limit, but it's all about a networking. So right now we're looking at about 140 countries for which we have data. And it's a lot of it is from direct interaction with the countries. For all OECD countries, basically, we're directly working with them. For a number of other countries, we're working also directly with them, or with other agencies such as APEC, Eurostat, the OPEC, and so on. This is just a small sample of organizations whom we network to make sure that we have the best information available. And another point that's also important is also it's all very nice to do the work, but you have to make it known. So we have to work on diffusion of what we have. So just give a sample of what's out there. So why go beyond the energy balance? Although it's already a great set of wealth of information, it provides an even stronger foundation to policy. In this case, it's policy related to energy efficiency. So indicators that are defined at the level of the energy balance tend to be aggregated. So we can deal with energy self-sufficiency, the mix reliance on some energy versus another one, some energy intensities, intensity per capita. But today's policy related to energy efficiency tend to target more specific energy segments. So here's an example of how things change when you look at the aggregate picture and you try to drill down to some of the details. So we're looking at, this is sort of fictitious, but it actually resembles some reality. If you look at the trend, say for say a household, it goes up, there's more demand of households, so is it that people are just getting more using without paying attention to what they're doing?